this is the fun part where it's yeah, I think I can make it. You know, Greg has always said to me, dirt bikes do not belong in water. And he's absolutely right. You know, it's, you kind of find a water hole that's, who's going to go first, find the deep spots, find the line, but these things do not do well with water. So you've watered your bike, it's totally fallen into the water, it's wet. You don't know the extent of the damage. Before you go into the water, hit the kill switch. Okay, if you're about to fall, shut your bike off because your bike does not want to breathe through the airbox. You don't want any water going in there. Chances are if it gets in there, you're gonna have to do what we're about to show you. So the bike's been watered out. We know that for a fact. We're gonna shut the fuel off, okay? We're gonna remove the air filter, wring it out, set it aside to dry. We're gonna pull the spark plug out, okay? Completely remove your spark plug. That way water has somewhere to go. If you do have water in your top end or the bottom end, you can release that by pulling out the spark plug, kicking the bike over, or using your electric start, and water will come shooting out. If you've got water into your exhaust system, the best way to remove it is to lift the bike up. So why don't we do that? We put it into gear. Okay, remember fuel is off. Here's it. Okay, so put it into gear, and you've shut off your fuel petcock, removed your filter. Okay, anything else, Mike, that I'm missing?
That's pretty much it.
Okay.
Obviously, if you're riding with friends, you know, you've got people to help you. If you don't have friends, the easiest way to do it is actually put the bike on its side, turn it upside down, just like you used to do when you were a kid with your BMX bicycle. You know, you want to move the chain or adjust the gears or something like that. You just turn it upside down and sit it on the seat and the handlebars. Yeah. Do exactly the same thing with the bike.
I'm glad you brought that up. So different methods for riding with a friend or friends and riding alone to accomplish the same goal. So I'll take the front tire. If you want to hold the sides to the back.
Is this the same for 2 and 4 stroke, or is this just a 2-stroke method?
Is this the same for 2 and 4 stroke?
Yes. Yeah. Methods the same for 2 or 4 stroke. The electric bikes we'll get to at a later date. Greg is holding the front tire, so then I can grab the front tire and lift it up without it moving. The bike is in gear, so the rear tire will not rotate. We'll just pivot on the rear tire. It will. Okay, it will rotate because we don't have it. Put your foot behind the wheel. Ready? Please. Okay, so there we go. Water is now spewing out your exhaust. While the bike is up here, you want to hold on to it carefully. And you put it into neutral, okay? And kick it over. You can kick it over using your hand on the Kickstarter, or you can hit the starter button. Do not put your face, see where Dave is right here, with the plug out, he's going to get a face full of water and fuel. Heads up, I've seen it done before. You don't want to be in this area when you kick the machine over by hand or use the starter, as there's fluid and water going everywhere. Once we've done that, we can put the bike down again. And then reverse the steps. Put our air filter back in. It's okay if it's still a little moist. Wring it out as best you can. But while you've been addressing everything else, taking the plug out, lifting the bike to drain it, etc., it's had time in the sun, hopefully, to dry a little bit. Put it back in, turn your fuel back on, and I find the best way to get the bike going is turn the fuel on, take it off its stand, lean the bike over so you fill your float bowl, or fill your bowl. So it's got the fuel, start it up. I like to go full throttle on the start. And there you have it. You should be off and running. Now, if the bike doesn't start, and we'll get into the towing aspect of it, but you can tow it to start. And when you're towing to start the bike, you want to use a higher gear, second or third gear, so there's little resistance on the tow bike, towing the bike that needs to be started, and it'll lug over and eventually start. Water's not your friend. I've got pistons at home that are cracked on the front of the skirt and the back of the skirt. That's going from wide open throttle to waterlock. Like, not good at all. Stay out of the water. In fact, on rainy days, stay home. Don't go riding. If you're into water sports, buy a canoe, get a boat. These things do not run in the water. It's fun when you're on someone else's bike. I like to use Larry's bike because it's indestructible, these betas. You've got the snorkel kit on yours?
Don't need it.
Don't need it.
Water's got a lot of oxygen in it.
Any questions on the bike, and do you want to add anything else?
The only thing we would add is if it's a four-stroke, so when you get home, change your oil.
Oh, 100%.
Change the oil out. And I know myself, actually another ride that Chris and I were on, I watered out my 500. It was a four-stroke, and we did exactly what we talked about right here. It started up right away. Quite a bit of water came out of the cylinder. When I dropped the oil, when I got home that night, there was a little bit of water, but I think what saved us was how fast we were on it. Because that water is going to be in that cylinder. It can get by the rings and around by the piston. So the faster you get that water out of the cylinder, the better you are.
Again, if you know you're going down, you're going to submerge the bike, hit the kill switch, okay, before it goes down. That way you're reducing the chances of getting water into the system. What color is oil if it's got water in it? Milky. Milky, okay? It looks like a double-double from Tim Hortons. That's
Yeah.
the consistency. That's
They
the
said
color.
milky in color is what they said. It cut out there.
I think going back to the very beginning, a rule of thumb when you come to a water crossing is to stop and have a quick look at it. Obviously, some water crossings are not going to be flowing water, but they'll be standing water. Those are the most difficult to determine, one, how deep they are, and if there's any obstructions in it. Larry and I know for sure when we've ridden the corduroy, there's one river crossing near Sedgwick's gravel pit that is used yearly. When you're looking at fast water, look to where there's ripples. If there's ripples, that's where the water's having to go over the rocks. So the water level is going to be a lot lower there. If it's smooth, chances are the water's deeper. So those are the things you got to look for. If you do happen to water out, if you're quick enough and the bike stays upright, chances are it'll be an easy start. If the bike gets totally submerged underwater, there may be some water in the gas, in which case what you'll have to do is when you turn the gas on for the first time after you dewatered the bike, you may have to drain the carb a couple of times. The easiest way, obviously, is if it's a carb bike, put it on its side, let it drain out, pick it up. You may have to do it 2 or 3 times. That way you get the water out of the gas tank and out of the carb.
So you're talking about using the drain lines that are already on the bike, right, Dave?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. If it's an EFI bike, it's a little different. If you get gas in the tank, you've got to circulate it through the pump. Thing with that, you just connect it. Most off-road EFI bikes have a quick connect. Just connect it. If it's got a little filter in it, like the KTMs or Husqvarnas and the gas gases come with, if you've got a pick or a little needle or something, pick it out so that way you don't lose it. make sure the spark plug is still connected so that you don't have any errant flashes from the spark. Crank it over 5 seconds, crank it over, let it rest, another 5 seconds, and then another 5 seconds. That way, any water that's in the tank, it's already settled down to the bottom, gets flushed out through the pump and out, and then you should be good. Then you can reconnect the thing and try and start the bike again.
Okay, so you're literally cranking the gas out of the bottom of the tank where the water is probably settled, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry?
Most of them will cycle on.
Most of them will cycle automatically, but some of them, you know, especially the two strokes, they run on the power of the button. Where it,
Yeah, as soon as you turn mine on, it cycles. So I guess you'll have to disconnect it before then. Okay.
The only thing I'd like to add to this is when you pick the bike up to get the water out of the exhaust system, be very much aware of this part of your pipe. It'll contain a lot of water. Even when the bike is held up at 90 degrees, okay, or 12 o'clock, it is not all coming out. You may have to do some shaking and moving it around because you don't want to have a big gallon of water sitting in this location. First of all, the bikes don't like to start with any back pressure at all. They want to be able to breathe. The other thing is on a 4-stroke, unlike the 2-stroke, the exhaust muffler is full of baffling. Bringing it up like that will only get half of the water out because it's going through different chambers and baffles. And sometimes actually I did an auto traction one time, and we took the muffler off after we filled it up with water, put it at 12 o'clock, we drained all the water out, we turned it around to 6 o'clock, and we took almost 2 liters out of it after the fact. So it's not as simple to get the water out, but it's important to get that water out of the exhaust.
Another thing, obviously, before you're going across a stream or a river, and the first person goes across and you think, holy smokes, that looks deep. A couple of options, depending on which way the water's flowing. Ride with the air box on the downside of the stream. So let's say the river's flowing this way. This is the side that you want the air box to be on. Obviously, if it's flowing the other way, you've got a couple of options. Walking the bike across, certainly a safer way. One, it takes all the weight off the bike sits higher, less chance of watering out. Most people like to walk their bikes on the left side. That also helps. What happens is when you're standing next to it, it produces a little well between you and the bike. The water's coming over you, it goes out like this, and here the water level is maybe an inch or two low. So there's little things you can do to save yourself the pain of watering out and be back on the bike. Yeah, sometimes in the spring or the fall, the water can be real cold, but it saves you being colder for a lot longer.
When your bike quits in a water crossing, you don't even think that you've actually watered it out. Generally, the vent hose on the carbureted motors like to have some air venting. You can reroute these hoses up into your underneath your tank. But the other thing is, when it quits on a water crossing, don't mess around trying to start it in 18 inches or a half a meter of water. Drag it onto the shoreline to get it going. You're just going to kill yourself and the battery trying. So get the bike to dry land before you try anything.
In case you don't know about the venting and the hoses that Larry was talking about, this bike is carbureted and it's got hoses coming underneath. So you can reroute these hoses up into your air box, and then your crankcase vent as well runs out the top side of the crank. Mine is right here. Okay, that's crankcase, and then your carburetor back in here. You can reroute those hoses if you want. There's tons of information online on how to do that. And of course, every bike's different, so have a look.